Hello, everybody, and welcome to this chat we are having on the book Being Sheela, the life journey of an immigration law lawyer. I'm Prema Govindan, the editor of this book, and I commission books with the literary team at HarperCollins India. To start off, let me show you this beautiful book that we are going to discuss today. I'll also introduce you to our two guests this evening. It's Sheela Murthy and the writer of this book, who's Adithi Rao. So, a brief about Sheela. Sheela grew up in India, where she attended the prestigious Stella Maris College in Chennai and completed her major in history with a minor in political science. She enrolled for the LLB program at the University Law College in Bangalore and graduated with a first rank, after which she gained admission into the Harvard Law School. Attorney Murthy began her career in corporate and real estate, and she later started her own law firm that provided a one-stop office for immigration law matters. Apart from being a successful entrepreneur, Ms. Murthy is a philanthropist as well, who, along with her husband, offers numerous community services in the USA through the Murthy Nayak Foundation. And a little bit about Aditi. After a degree in theatre from Smith College, Massachusetts, Adithi Rao worked as an assistant director on the award-winning Hindi cult film Satya, and then as a writer-editor on the travel channel India.com. Her short stories have appeared in various anthologies, and she has authored a couple of books for children as well. Her first novel was Left from the Nameless Shop. Yeah, so that's it about our two guests today. So let me begin with Sheela here. So Sheela, the title says that this is the story of an immigration lawyer. What is the story? What is the life journey of an immigration lawyer, and especially with you being an immigrant yourself?
Thank you so much, Prema. It's truly an honor and a pleasure to be here and to be interviewed by the wonderful Prema Govindan herself. And I thank Adithi Rao for making me look so wonderful in this book and really humanize and create these beautiful stories. So the book, Being Sheela, which, by the way, I think we only saw half of the book when you held it up. Not there you go. That's better. Yes. So I think people can now read it. Thank you, Prema. And the other clarification in the introduction was when you said the Murthy Nayak Foundation gives money not in the US alone. We do a lot of work in India, both in the country of our birth and in the country that we've adopted with the foundation, the charitable giving and the philanthropy. Just clarifications, sorry. The book itself goes through this wonderful story of childhood and the pranks and the struggles of, so any child reading it or any adult reading it would sort of go back and harken back to their own childhood in some form or fashion. And it just talks about being an army brat and traveling all over the country as the child of an army officer in India, and the friends and the struggles and the classrooms and the parents and their tensions and the usual stories, the difficult things in life that we look at as obstacles or challenges, in fact, are what makes us stronger and better as human beings and tougher individuals. And I think life is all about learning and growing and making connections, wonderful, deep, meaningful connections along life's journey. And I think the book showcases that. It, of course, talks about lots of stories of immigrants as one of the top immigration law firms and lawyers in the world on US immigration law. I think it describes examples and stories of immigrants and their struggles and what they went through in a very human fashion. And I think Adithi was able to truly sort of describe that journey for them. And I'm just another immigrant that went through the same journey like all my clients, and to, in a sense, find salvation at the end of it, but also see the struggles, again, along life's journey that makes us stronger and better.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, how was your journey in the US? Did success come differently to you as an outsider? Did it come differently? Did you have a different experience from somebody who was brought up there and possibly had a very different life experience compared to what you did?
It's a great question. So I know that often I think somebody who was born and brought up almost takes things for granted, whereas anybody coming from outside, any of us that come in as immigrants into America, tend to have a great degree of fascination and appreciation for the country, for its freedoms, its freedom of expression and speech and expression, which is so embedded in the very fabric and the DNA of this culture. And we struggle. I think we hustle a little more. Mm-hmm. We know that if we have to go back, it's a different kind of struggle back in our own home countries for us as immigrants. Mm-hmm. Not that it's better or worse. It's a very different experience. Of course, America is the richest country on earth. So it's not just financial wealth, but the richness that comes with, as I said, freedom of thought, freedom of speech and expression, freedom to challenge, freedom to question the authorities, from the school teachers to the university professors to the employers. You can if you tell an employer you're wrong because of here are the reasons, you will actually get a raise in America. At least 35 years of growing up in India, if you said to the boss you're wrong, I would be afraid of my job in India. And so I think it's just a different culture, and it's very addictive in many fashions and many ways. And I think India has, and many other countries are learning from America to have universities and colleges that are very open and give students the opportunity to think completely outside the box and be very creative and challenge and ask questions and ask for clarifications and not be insulted by being questioned or challenged.
Mm-hmm. So, and I also realized that in the beginning of your career, you were actually put into these the immigration section in all of your jobs because they thought you'd be a great fit there. So
I think a couple, the first one, no, not in New York at White & Case, but then the other two law firms, Gordon Feinblatt and then Shapiro and Olander, I started doing immigration related research because they said, hey, you've been through the journey. Would you like to, look into this issue? And the feeling of joy and empowerment and control and being able to almost play God with people's destinies, give them answers and solutions to questions or issues, or helping them to get a work permit or a green card so that they and their families could have a good life in America. That felt very emotionally, mentally, spiritually satisfying to me.
Right. Okay, and moving on to Adithi for a bit. Yeah, Adithi, so you have been a fiction writer. So how come this change to writing a book on Sheela?
I think there is not a whole lot of difference between being a fiction writer and a non-fiction writer. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it's still a story. It still needs real characters. Even if you're talking about fiction, your characters need to almost be alive to you before you can write them, and first imagine them, then write them and convince your reader. If your reader is not convinced about the reality of these people that you've created, then you failed as a writer. Mm-hmm. So it has not been. I mean, it's not a very great change in that sense. Sheela was the heroine of my book, and she came alive for me when I was talking to her, when I heard stories about her from other people, when I heard her speak. She literally came alive to me, and for me, sorry. And so I was able to write her as a character in this book, like the protagonist of the book, and that's kind of how I ended up, with being Sheela.
Right. And how was the journey? Especially you have spoken about wanting to bring the people alive, but what about the research that one has to put in? Because otherwise you're depending on your imagination. So you do have to put in a lot of research. So is that more difficult, or is creating a story out of imagined people more difficult?
Not necessarily, because like I said, I mean, even if it's an imagined person, you still need to research in the sense, okay, so to be very honest, for me, even the characters in a fiction novel are based in real life in some way, based on people that I know and people that I've either had, strong likings for or dislike for, or even people who've been fascinated in, and when they're layered and when they become interesting like that. Certainly, you are a lot more responsible when it comes to writing a non-fiction book. Sheela was great. I mean, I spent hours and hours with her. First, when she was in India for a few days, we were just, we were stuck together from sun up to way past sundown. We would actually, what was really interesting is that I would go places with her. Like I would follow her around because I felt that would add to her personality. It would add to my understanding of her as a person. If I, not just when I'm sitting across a coffee table and listening to her talk about her experiences, because the book is, I wanted it to be more than just her experiences, or more than just cases that she's worked successfully on, or on some rare occasion unsuccessfully on. It had so much to do with the human being that she is. I wanted to bring the human side of her out. So the research, as far as the technical details are concerned, I mean, you're dealing with immigration law, US immigration law particularly. This is something I have no idea about. And she spent hours with me, like, explaining stuff. And I would come up with some scenario and she would work me out of the tangle using, out of the legal tangle. So that was, I mean, it was scintillating actually.
Okay.
Sometimes you do need to do that with your fiction characters also.
Pardon? Any problems with recalling certain sections? I'm sure that, these are all old cases that you were speaking about, or everything pretty seamless.
I thought it was all very seamless. Were you asking me or Adithi?
Both of you.
Okay.
So the trick here was to not write it exactly as it was, because I need to protect the privacy of her clients. She's an attorney and she's responsible for not, she can't come out here and give me her stories to be put, on display like that. So many a times I wanted to show the way she dealt with the case. I wanted to show the actual, the challenges that immigrants face. But we came up with situations which were very similar to the actual thing, but also trying to, conceal the identities of people. And sometimes we would combine. I think in terms of her recalling stuff, she would forget stuff, but in the course of talking about things, these memories would just come pouring out. And I'd be like, wait, I need to get all this stuff down. I mean, don't go so fast, because I'm trying to kind of, register each and everything she says, for fear that I'll make a mistake. A technical error would have been, pretty hard to recover from. So even if she did have, and sometimes after we'd have a long conversation, a lot of stuff would come up again. And she would recall a whole bunch of other things which she says she had long forgotten. And then she would follow it up with a long email, with a long descriptive email telling me, after I spoke to you, I had all these memories. And then I would take all of that and, sort of put it into the book in various ways, weave it into the narrative. So in a way, it was an experience which was, I would say, fictional, and, it was not semi-non-fiction and semi-fiction, and it was a very interesting experience.
I can tell you, Adithi was just incredible. Her dogged determination to just say, my mother and my sisters were like, why are you spending all your time with Adithi instead of with us? You've only come from America to India for 2 weeks. And you are spending from morning to late at night with Adithi. Don't we matter? And so she was like, no, I need to get this story. And in fact, I want each of you to talk to me. So she kind of got them involved in it slowly so that they would also buy into it and get excited to contribute to all these great stories.
Yeah,
it really helped though.
Waking up at 4 and being out of the house by 6 o'clock to beat the traffic, etc., etc. I found that pretty fascinating. This determination.
Prema, you're talking about me? Your voice kind of vanished in the beginning.
Right. I'm just saying that you had told me about the whole process, which sounded pretty interesting, because you seem to wake up at 4 o'clock every day and to rush out of your house at 6 o'clock in order to make it to her place on time, etc. So it was a pretty interesting story. I think your determination, I think, is pretty commendable.
Thank you. No, there's no other way to do it but obsessively. I mean, and I think Sheela kind of agrees with me. The main thing here, Prema, is, and I think Sheela completely lives her life in that way, where she's told me many a times that she's only as strong as the people around her are. So she makes it a point to have really superbly creative, talented, trained professionals around her, and she builds her team because she knows that that is her strength. And as far as my Sheela is concerned, the character in my book is concerned, I realized that a story can't just be told based on one person and one person's perspectives and one person's, narration of her life. It becomes so important to have a bunch of really interesting, strong people, so that even if they enter into the book for half a paragraph or one paragraph, they need to contribute something, and they will only be able to contribute if they are solid personalities in my reader's mind.
Worthwhile, yeah.
So in this case, what happened was talking to her mother. I mean, her mother is fantastic. She deserves a book to be written on her, all of her own, right, Sheila? I mean, she's awesome.
Sure. She's
I've
definitely
never
a character.
My God, I mean, the kind of courage she has, I mean, she's into her 80s now, the determination she has, just having her there with us present all the time, watching this quiet, sort of solid love that she has for Sheila, listening to her perspective about Sheila's childhood, her own marriage, actually, her own experiences as a mother to this person and a mother to two other daughters. Also, just getting to know Sheila's mother was in a way getting to know Sheila as the adult, because the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree. And I could see where Sheila got her determination and her ability to just push and push and push when things got really tough. That definitely came from her mother. So spending time with your family, Sheila, was it was very important part of writing this book. Getting to know Vasant, we are connected distantly by marriage. The common person that we have is somebody I'm very close to. And I've been hearing stories about Sheila and Vasant my whole life. I mean, long before I got to know them personally and got to spend time with them. So these whole, these little experiences and getting to know these anecdotes, they contributed a lot towards the writing of this book and, bringing it to where it was.
Okay. So thank you to the two of you for being with us this evening for us and morning for Sheila. Thank you so much. It is pretty early there. Thank you to everybody who's been watching this as well. And have a great day, everybody.